versus The First Kill. Chuck Comic-Con panel. Chuck versus The Third Dimension. Original airing Feb 2, 2009. Chuck versus The Third Dimension 2D. Original airing Feb 3, 2009. Chuck versus The Bullet Train. Original airing Jan 20, 2012. Chuck versus The Cubic Sea. Chuck versus The Role Models. Original airing May 3, 2010. Chuck versus The Muuurder. Chuck versus The Muuurder. Chuck versus The X. Chuck versus Sarah. Chuck versus The Fear of Death. Chuck versus The Fake Name. Chuck versus The Couch Lock. Chuck versus The Seduction Impossible. Original airing Feb 7, 2011. Chuck versus Gravitron. Chuck versus The A-Team. Chuck versus The Broken Heart. Chuck versus The Tooth. Original airing May 10, 2010. Chuck versus The Breakup. Chuck versus The Living Dead. Original airing May 17, 2010. Chuck versus The Cat Squad. Chuck versus The Final Exam. Chuck versus The Tango. Chuck Zach Levy interview. Chuck versus The Dream Job. Chuck versus The Undercover Lover. Chuck versus The Suitcase. Original airing Sep 27, 2010. Chuck versus Agent X. Chuck versus Agent X. Chuck versus The Good Bop. Chuck versus The Family Volkoff. Chuck versus The Family Volkoff. Chuck versus The Santa Suit. Chuck versus The Predator. Chuck versus The DeLorean. Chuck versus The American Hero. Chuck versus The Masquerade. Original airing Feb 21, 2011. Chuck versus The Hack-Off. Chuck versus The Hack-Off. Chuck versus The Marlin. Chuck versus The Balcony. Chuck versus The Pink Slip. Original airing Jan 10, 2010. versus the Nemesis. Chuck versus the Nemesis. Chuck versus the Wedding Planner. Original airing after 18/20/11. Chuck versus the Last Details. Chuck versus the Subway and Chuck versus the Ring Part Roman 2. Chuck versus the Seduction. Chuck versus the Truth. Original airing Nov 12/2007. Chuck versus the Alma Mater. Original airing Nov 5/2007. Chuck versus the Crown Vic. Chuck versus the Crown Vic. Chuck versus the Subway. Original airing May 24, 2010. Chuck versus the Lethal Weapon. Chuck versus the Lethal Weapon. Chuck versus the First Date. Chuck versus the Cougars. Original airing Oct 22, 2008. Chuck versus the Imported Heart Salami. Original airing Nov 19, 2007. Chuck versus Tom Sawyer. Original airing Oct 27, 2008. Chuck versus the Suburbs. Original airing Feb 16, 2009. Chuck versus the Cliffhanger. Chuck versus the Cliffhanger. Chuck versus the Ring Part 2. Original airing May 24, 2010. Pilot. Chuck versus the Ring. Original airing April 27, 2009. Chuck versus the Beard. Original airing March 8, 2010. Chuck versus the Honeymooners. Chuck versus the Pushnicks. Original airing Jan 31, 2011. Chuck versus Santa Claus. Chuck versus Phase 3. Original airing Nov 22, 2010. Chuck versus the Other Guy. Chuck versus the Colonel.
Hey guys, thank you so much for the support and likes and comments down below, and also thank you so much for watching, and I look forward to see you in the next video. Then take care, bye.